Hi, I'm Ryan Bridge, and I'm excited to host a new podcast called Bridge Talks Business with Milford, where I'll be talking about, well, business, obviously. Every week, I'll be joined by one of Milford's team of analysts, fund managers, and financial experts to cover key business events. It'll be your go-to for insights on the markets, business, and the economy, both here and overseas, as we dig a little deeper into the business week. Join me for Bridge Talks Business with Milford. Subscribe on iHeart or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. All discussions are informational only and should not be considered financial advice.
You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
It's an 81.
Let me just tell you what I think about it. I think it was a disgraceful performance from a captain who got his sums wrong today, and I think it should never be permitted to happen again. We keep reading and hearing that the players are under a lot of pressure and that they're tired and jaded and perhaps their judgment and their skill is blunted. Well, perhaps they might advance that as an excuse for what happened out there today. Not with me, they don't. I think it was a very poor performance. One of the worst things I have ever seen done on a cricket field. Good night.
My favourite part of that is after he's given Australia an absolute serve, he still manages a cheery good night at the end of it. The late, great Richie Benno. I'm Jason Pine, Andy McDonald, show producer. We're with you until 3 o'clock. New Zealand Rugby CEO Mark Robinson on the show after 1, talking a range of issues. A weakened French touring side coming here next year, reportedly. The possibility of an Anzac Day Bledisloe Cup test. The All Blacks touring South Africa, among other things. Leading us off today, though, Sir John Kirwan standing by to talk a couple of selection conundrums for All Blacks coach Scott Robertson as he prepares to unveil his squad to tour the Northern Hemisphere. That squad is announced at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Will Sam Cane and or TJ Perenara be on the plane? So John Kirwan on that and other aspects of the selection. Your thoughts are absolutely welcome and in fact encouraged on this as well. Other matters around today, massive night coming up at Accor Stadium in Sydney. The NRL Grand Final, Melbourne Storm Penrith Panthers, former Storm and Kiwis forward Tawera Nikau and Penrith double centurion and NRL winner Ryan Girdler after 2. Of course, Tawera also won the NRL with the Melbourne Storm, so a very good look at this NRL Grand Final for you after 2. All-white striker Ben Wane's on the show ahead of New Zealand's World Cup qualifiers over the next few weeks, and James McConey checking in his regular slot around 1:45. Live sport this afternoon, Ranfurly Shield Rugby. Tasman defending the log against the Amber and Blacks of Taranaki from 2:05 in Nelson. A win for Tasman would see them lock up the Shield for the summer and secure top spot going into the NPC playoffs. Taranaki, though, have a pretty good Shield pedigree. They'll be going to Nelson with one thing on their minds, and that's wresting away the log of wood, which they would then hold for the summer with no more challenges to come in 2024. We'll have a preview of that game around 1:30. Keep you updated on progress once it kicks off. Round 2 action in the Men's and Women's National Football League to keep an eye on as well. Please get involved in the show if you would like to. Anything that catches your ear, anything you'd like to make a point about or pass some judgment on or give an opinion on. 0800 80 1080 9292 is the text number, and emails into jason at newstalkzb.co.nz. Bang on 11 past midday.
Analysing every view from every angle in the sporting world. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine. Call 0800 80 1080. News Talk ZB.
Finds McKenzie. Kicks it over the touchline. The capital curse ends. And the All Blacks win Sam Cane's 100th. His final on home soil. TJ Perenara's final on home soil. 33-13. Over the Wallabies at Sky Stadium.
Yeah, final test on home soil for Sam Cane and for TJ Perenara, but will that be their final test full stop? The All Black squad for the end of season tour revealed at 2 o'clock tomorrow for test matches against Japan, England, Ireland, France and Italy. It's a tough tour. Scott Robertson will name a 36-man touring party, while a 29-man All Blacks 15 squad will also be named for matches against Munster and Georgia, that side to be coached by Clayton McMillan. There's also been word, and Scott Robertson confirmed this, that there may well be movement of players between the two squads. So what are we, 65 players there are going to be announced in one of those two squads tomorrow afternoon. Let's bring in Sir John Kirwan, 96-match All Black, former international coach, now a major part of Sky Sports coverage of the All Blacks through commentary, analysis and his role on the breakdown. JK, thanks for joining us. Can I start with the halfbacks? Do you think TJ Perenara will go on this Northern Tour?
No, I don't. I think that with Roygaard coming back, I believe that it's time possibly to take some risks. TJ's been amazing. Signed with Japan. I put him in the same category as Sam Cane. At some stage, I think we've got to give some of these younger guys a bit more of an opportunity. So for me, both Sam Cane and TJ Perenara just might miss out, and it might be time to move on.
So is that's your view? What do you think Razor will do? Because if he doesn't take TJ, he's got Cam Roygaard, 5 test matches, Cortez Ratama, 8 test matches, Noah Hotham, 1 game off the bench. Does he leave himself a little bit light at halfback?
Yeah, totally. I don't think he leaves himself light. He leaves himself light on experience. So, I think it's a massive question. If he decides to take them, I get that as well, because what he's trying to do is, that by the end of the season, this is an incredibly difficult Northern Tour. You start with Japan, which they're not going to take some of the more experienced guys. They're going to send them straight to the UK. Then you've got England, Ireland, France, and Italy. So, I think I would understand if he took them, but then, what did you mention? Roygaard 5.
Ratama 8. Yeah, no, Hotham 1. Yeah.
So when they get back from Europe, what do you want their numbers to be? Do you want them to have 7, 10? They sort of say that to win World Cups, you need to have sort of 28 to 30 test matches under your belt to understand what it's all about. So, I think it's a massive call. I think it's the most interesting part of this selection, and possibly Locke. What's he going to do with Locke? I think Tupoivai was probably my player of the series from an improvement point of view. Sort of the line-outs, was great around the field. So I think that's a real positive. But then do you take Josh Lord? Do you take Sandari? What do you do at lock, where I think there's a little light? And then the loose forwards is really interesting. I don't know what happened to Dalton. I watched Counties last night and he got injured late, sort of limped off. So what are we going to do at loose forward? Are we going to take some of the young guys like Yossi Lakai, or are we going to stick with Sam Cane? So I think it's time, mate. I think it's time. We're 2 years away from a World Cup, so that's what I'd be doing.
All right, so Sam Cane's an interesting one to me. With halfback, you've got Roygaard, Ratama, Hotham, so you've got guys queuing up. Who is the number 7 beyond this year? Let's say Cane goes and plays, but he's not there next year. Who is the All Blacks open side flanker in 2025 and moving through the next World Cup cycle?
I think it's Dalton. I think it's Dalton because of our loose forward mix. I think Satiti's come on, as we all know. Artie's playing well at number 8. And I think the 7, how we used to have our traditional 7 has now changed. Our 7 is now playing like a 6. Like when you think about Sam Cane, incredibly defensively, incredible work rate around the ruck, but probably not a ball carrier anymore, So they're leaving the ball carrying to Satiti and to Artie, which makes our 7 then like our 6 used to be. So a very tight individual who's doing that hard work, which then gives you the balance to free up other guys. So I think Dalton is best suited if that's the role we're going to play. And then I think from a pressure point of view, we've got some of these young guys coming through, Lakai, Yosser, guys like that are probably more multi-talented. They can play in many positions. But I think the interesting thing about the last test match, no one really played out of position. We had Will at fullback, we had Bowden at 10, we had Anton Leonard-Brown at 12, Rico at 13. Everyone was playing in their specialist position, which I think is a good thing.
What's happened to Mark Talea this year?
I just think he's tired. I just think he's... I was thinking about that the other day. I wonder whether they need to have a look at his fitness program. I just think he looked like he's a little bit tired and lost a little bit of that zing. And sometimes that could be training. Sometimes that can be just tiredness. So, I think the outside backs is another real good one. You've seen Mark come off a little bit of form and then Caleb come into form. So I think that's another real interesting position out wide.
So Damien McKenzie goes, Bowden Barrett goes. I want to get to who starts at 10 in a moment, but who goes out of Stephen Petafeta and Harry Plummer?
I think Stephen Petafeta will probably go. Plummer plays 12, whereas Perifeta's a 15-10, but I think Stephen, is probably their preferred option in that 10-15 cover, and so I think he'll go.
Who do you think will start at first five against England in 4 weeks' time?
I think it depends on what style of rugby you want to play. I think that Damien's done an amazing job. I think Damien's been really, really good. Does he need to learn to control the last 20? Probably yes. And he'll learn that. But I also loved him coming off the bench. I've always said that he probably won't like this, but I always think we've missed him coming off the bench, and he did the same last week. So I think it'll be about a style of play that they want, and I think they'll be able to use that as an option, against England. What sort of 10 do you want versus Ireland,
And just to finish, JK, let's assume the All Blacks should beat Japan and Italy. What's an acceptable win-loss ratio in the other three, England, Ireland, France, in consecutive weekends?
Oh, look, I think for me it's coming down to the wire, something that I don't think Super Rugby is setting ourselves up for anymore. I think we've got to go down to the wire and beat these sides, So for me, getting down, winning a game by 2 or 3 points would be ideal. I think if we can beat Ireland, that's going to be pretty heated, and one of England or France, and I think France are going to be incredibly difficult at home. So if we can come away, lose one, and win the rest, I think that'd be outstanding. But if we lose 2, then down to the wire, and it's maybe a kick. So we know that we're there and competing, and this young side is learning, that pressure game in the last 15 minutes.
All right, JK, thanks for your thoughts this afternoon. Appreciate it very much indeed. Sir John Kirwan there, former All Black, member of the panel on the breakdown on Sky. No doubt they'll have more to say on that tonight. Keen to hear your views now. Let's get your reaction to anything you heard there, or anything you want to pick up on in terms of this squad. 0800 80 1080, opening the lines for this. Particularly interested on your view on TJ Perenara and freshly crowned Centurion Sam Cane. Should we move on from them or give them one last hurrah on this tour? Neither of them, we know, are going to be here next year as they leave to take up contracts in Japan. But both have indicated they are available for this tour if selected. TJ even said after the test in Wellington, this is why we play. We're never going to turn down the opportunity. Now, we all know we need to find the balance between results now on what will be a pretty tough tour and building for the future. And I must say, I've got a slightly different view from Sir John Kirwan. I feel like the best way to approach this is to take out any discussion about building for the future and ask a pretty simple question. Do these players right now justify their place in a 36-man squad? Is TJ Perenara one of the best 3 halfbacks right now? And the answer is yes. He, Cam Roigard and Cortez Ratama should go. Noah Hotham's had 1 test this year off the bench, and he'll play many more. Of course he will. He'll be in the mix from next year onwards. But TJ's played 7 of the 8 tests. 7 of the 9 tests this year. 5 of those have been starts. I'd take him. Sam Cane. Is he one of our best loose forwards? Again, the answer is yes. He started at number 7 in the last 4 test matches and contributed in as committed a fashion, particularly on defence, as he always has. And unlike halfback, where there is a log jam of young talent coming through, there's no obvious heir apparent for the open side flankers role, is there? I mean, there's clearly a decision to be made around who the contenders are to wear that jersey next year and on towards the next World Cup. JK said there, Dalton Papali'i is the guy he thinks has the inside running. Then you look at a guy like Peter Lakai, and you wonder whether he'll go on this tour. He'll certainly be on one of those 2 touring parties, you'd have to imagine, Peter Lakai. Maybe the All Blacks, maybe that All Blacks 15 squad. But I feel like finding the heir apparent for the number 7 can wait. The next Rugby World Cup is still 3 years away. For the here and now, Sam Cane and TJ Perenara are well worthy of their places in that 36-man squad. I would be taking them both, but that's just my opinion. What would you do? 0800 80 10 80 9292 if we would prefer to send a text. Arthur, hello.
Hi there. You're talking about the first 5/8. Now, there hasn't been mentioned lately. He's selected in the squad and hasn't kind of been talked about is Ruben Love. Do you think he's got any chance? And going by Steve Pofetta, I've watched him here in Taranaki, and I personally think he's better fullback than he is at first 5.
All right, let's address the two things. The first one, Arthur, Ruben Love's been injured, but I was at the Wellington game yesterday against Hawke's Bay, and I saw him doing laps, pre the game, he was there running up and down. So I think he'll be named, but I think if he does play, it's more likely to be at fullback initially than first 5. I know there's a school of thought that he might be okay in the 10 jersey. Hasn't played there a lot for the Hurricanes, if at all. So I think if he plays, it'll be at fullback. And Stephen Petafeta, I think he is probably a fullback as well. I think his value is that he covers 10 and 15. So, he's probably the third first 5 you take after McKenzie and Barrett, I would imagine. Yep.
Okay then, thank you.
No, thank you, Arthur. Thanks for calling in. 0800 80 1080 is our number. Spare line there if you want to jump aboard. Text line open to 9292. 12:24, back with more of your calls on the All Black selection after this. Lots of analysis. All right, Shanksy, Sam Cane, TJ Perenara, one, both, or neither?
I guess. I mean, fundamentally, I agree with you, mate, that you picked the team based on wanting to, the here and now and wanting to win these big tests first and foremost, and then, and that's so what your preference is there. I mean, my personal preference is I definitely take Sam Cane. I'm a little bit on the fence with TJ Perenara. He's been there all this year, obviously, and that experience is great. I thought he didn't have the best game last week in Wellington, but I probably would lean more towards taking him. And I guess, mate, I was just going to mention as well this whole thing, which I've had a beef with for the last few years, this All Blacks 15 type squad that they've got going on, and everyone's kind of gone on, we want to do, go back to old school tours. And I just felt like this is a good opportunity to have a bit of old school, to go, right, let's go back to having, the All Blacks playing, and then having that bigger squad that plays the midweek games. And that way I feel like you're almost getting the best of both worlds if you're able to, integrate these wider guys into the squad. And remember back in the day, how many All Blacks were there that just, bunch of All Blacks that played games for the All Blacks but hadn't played tests, and I don't see there being anything wrong with that. And particularly with a game like, I just saw the other day, they're playing Munster, this All Blacks 15s team playing Munster, and of course everyone knows the history with that. I don't even know way back when the All Blacks lost to Munster, and it's a big famous thing, and they played, I think it's about 2008 or 9, the All Blacks went and played the midweek, and it was the All Blacks playing in a midweek game. And I feel like you're getting that traditional, old tour thing with the dirties in the midweek, and then, you could bring some of these wider guys like a Noah Hotham on there, and again, they're not playing tests, but they're in that wider squad, they're travelling with them, and just a bit of a thing with me about coming back to kind of, this whole, spreading the All Black brand across all these other teams that I've got a problem with, and I just feel like if they were to go with that old school tour and have a midweek game every week and go around and play these, these big club sides around where that they're going, I feel like, that would be a better way to integrate these fringe guys into the squad without them actually playing tests.
Yep. I think what got Mark Robinson after one, I'm going to ask him this about the South African tour in 2026, Shanksy, which I'm sure you've caught up on. Sounds like they're going to do a full-scale tour with 3 tests and another 5 midweek games, I think it is. So, and I get what you're saying, mate, and it feels as though the 29 who are going up with the All Blacks 15 are almost like, you have them up there just in case you need to bring somebody in. But as you say, integrating guys into an All Blacks environment, I think that there's great value in that, like the way they've taken apprentices in the past and sort of given them a taste of it without, as you say, actually having to play test matches.
Yeah, correct. I think Artie did that in the early days, and I remember thinking the same thing. Like, it'd be great to bring those guys along, and actually have them playing All Blacks games that aren't tests, that are still with an All Blacks team. There'd probably be fringe guys who are experienced All Blacks. They get experience that way, and they just play in a midweek game. And again, it'll bring back that tradition of the old school tour. And I think that, like I said, they're playing amongst of this All Blacks 15 team. Imagine if they were kind of, they're going to England and they play one of the big English club sides out in Bath or Bristol. Imagine what it would do for that area. You'd have, they'd pack it out for a proper All Blacks team. Likewise, France, you go down and play Toulon or Toulouse or, Stade de France, midweek, and all the stuff that comes with that. I just feel like it would, bring in a big, it'd tick a number of boxes.
Indeed. Good man, Shanksy. Thanks for calling, mate. Good to chat to you as always. 0800 80 10 80, couple on text before we move on. There is obviously there are opposing views here, and that's good. That's good. TJ and Sam should not go, says Nigel. Let the young guys go. Razor inherited a new bunch. Let them go. It doesn't matter. Artie at 7 for the World Cup. Need a line-out jumper at 8. Maybe Cullen Grace. I agree with you, says this one. Noah Hotham came in when they dropped Christie, so you'd have to think Perenara, Ratama and Roygaard are the top 3 halfbacks. They'll need to take TJ overall just for experience. And that's it, I think. Like I said at the top, take out the discussion. If you take out the discussion, if you choose to, like I have, take out the discussion about balancing, looking to the future with results, and you just ask a very simple question: are these guys worthy of a place in the squad on merit, like any player who you think of? If you just take out of the equation the fact that they're not going to be here next year, then I think they both earn their place in a 36-man squad. They certainly have earned their place in the Rugby Championship squad and the squad for the games against England and Fiji. So clearly Razor thinks they're worth their places then. Nothing really has changed. I don't think either of them have played their way out. Yes, I've had a few texts, both into 9292 and also to my own number from friends of mine who've said, hey, don't forget TJ didn't have a very good game against Australia and Wellington. Correct. By his own admission, he didn't. But I still think he's in the top 3 halfbacks. Nothing really has changed since the Rugby Championship squad was named. The only thing that will change is if Razor decides now is the time to look to the future. Murray, I think we spoke yesterday, did we? How's your health?
Well, look, on the improve. And look, I want to say to you that if the girls had taken that shot at goal, they would have won.
Which shot?
The Red Blacks.
Oh, right. Right. Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, it would have been.
It would have been 2-0 to Canterbury.
Well, your boys did all right last night. I quite enjoyed watching them beat the Waikato side last night. Murray, you would have enjoyed that too?
I always enjoy a red and black or a black and white win. Doesn't matter what it is. Always. Now, I want to throw a bolter at for number 10. This player played one test. I think he played one test or one game.
Murray, you're just going to have to sort your phone out, mate. I don't want to miss your bolter. Get your phone up to your mouth, mate. I need to hear who your bolter is.
Okay, he's played one game or one test for the All Blacks. Do you know who he is?
Is he a first 5?
Still playing. Yes, still playing.
And he's played one test for the All Blacks at first 5.
I'll make it easier for you. I'll give you another clue. Ex-Crusader.
Ex-Crusader has played one. Brett Cameron.
Exactly right, mate. He's my bolter because he'll play fullback too.
Yeah,
he'll be in one of those 2 squads.
Okay, mate. Look, I hadn't thought of Brett Cameron in my thoughts around the first 5 position. I guess I just assumed that we'd moved on from Brett Cameron. Yes, he had a serviceable Super Rugby campaign for the Hurricanes, who went all the way to the semi-finals, and I think at times he was very good. I don't know that he's got the triple threat that they're after. Kicking game good, passing game good, doesn't take at the line on much. Maybe that's not important. I look around the other first 5s and I think, okay, if they take 3 up to the on the All Blacks tour, so Bowden Barrett, Damien McKenzie plus 1, maybe that's Perafeta. Harry Plummer maybe goes in the All Blacks 15. Perhaps there's room for one more. Maybe Brett Cameron sneaks in there, potentially. Good to chat to you, Murray. Thanks for taking the time. Dallas, how are you?
Piney, I agree with you. I think we need experience. You know what it's like in playing the Northern Hemisphere. There'll be tight games. There'll be brutal forward exchanges in the mud, possibly, and the crowds will be against us. We need experience. I think that last team that went out at Wellington was our blueprint. We need Anton at centre. I think we've found our centre. It's Anton. Stick with him. He's a playmaker. And I agree with you that TJ, he's tough. But the reason I like TJ, he's like an extra loose forward. He's so strong. But and we need his experience too on tour. But he has to shut us mouth a bit, because otherwise you get whistled off the park up in the Northern Hemisphere. So Kane as well. It's just good to have these guys with experience on the Northern Tour. You know what it's like up there.
Oh, Dallas, I totally agree, and that's why I have them. I think we all agree. Roygaard and Ratama and Hotham probably as well are the future, and those three are gonna battle it out over this World Cup cycle. I mean, I think Roygaard, all things being equal, is probably your number 9 moving forward with Ratama and Hotham. But between them, as I said to JK, 8 tests for Ratama, 5 for Roygaard, just the 1 for Hotham off the bench, and that was only when he was brought in as an injury replacement for TJ, actually. So I'd have TJ up there, even if it's just to look after these guys in a mentoring capacity. And I think the experience is vital.
He's worth his weight in gold. And the other thing is, there's a question mark over Roygaard. He's just come back. And, we shouldn't put too much weight on his shoulders. He's come back from a massive injury. So, it's another reason to take TJ, I think.
Did you see Cam Roygaard play for Counties yesterday?
No, how'd he go?
Oh, Dallas, he was terrific, man. He was...
Yeah.
Oh, straight away. He got a couple of tries. He got a try with his first touch, and then he's picked one up on a halfway, and he's stepped a couple of guys. I thought if you're worried about your knee, you're not doing big massive side steps. But he didn't seem to care. He looked really good, Dallas. I think you'll enjoy watching him back in a black jersey, mate.
Excellent.
Good on you, Dallas. Great to chat to you, mate. Thanks for calling in. 0800 80 1080 is our number. All right, Phil, Sam Cane, TJ Perenara. What are you doing with those two? Are they on your plane?
Well, they weren't for a start, Piney, but I think you've changed my mind.
Have I convinced you? Have I convinced you? Have I swayed your view?
I think you might have brought me over to the dark side. As the fate has said, I am your father.
It's not that dark. It's not that dark over here. Look, I just think I think the experience of the both of them will be invaluable on this tour, which is a tough tour. England, Ireland, France in consecutive weeks. Phil, I reckon you need some experience and some leadership that both of those two will provide.
Yeah, because initially I was thinking, and I just want to touch on a caller's call yesterday too, if we've got time, we'll get through this. But initially I was thinking sort of like JK. I was in JK's camp because I was initially thinking now I'd be starting to look to build towards the World Cup. But then when you started talking about it, you said, it's still 3 years out now and that. And I started thinking, well, yeah, it's still plenty of time. So maybe you're right, because they have earned their place as far as I'm concerned to go on the tour. I just was starting to think about building for that future. But like I say, I think you've changed my mind, and they both, I think, deserve to be on that tour. It's not like they haven't earned their place, like you said. So, yeah, maybe we'll take them, and we've still got plenty of time to build for the younger players coming up towards that World Cup team.
Let me ask you this, Phil, because there's obviously opinion of what we would do if we were in charge, and that's always a lot of fun playing selector. But the point's been made that Razor obviously has to try and win these test matches as well, maybe even more so, given the fact that of the 9 so far, he's had 3 losses. England, let's say they beat Japan and Italy, that should be okay. But England, Ireland, France, though, all 3 of those tests are losable for the All Blacks. So you wouldn't want to lose 6 of your 14 test matches in your first year as All Blacks coach. So, whether that I guess I'll ask you, would Razor be more likely to take guys like Kane and Perenara just to ensure that he has the best chance of winning these test matches?
Well, it's hard to say with Razor, because I think I don't know if he would worry so much about the court of popular opinion, as they say, and what his win record how that would go down and what it would look like. But then, maybe as a confidence boost, get the New Zealand public behind him. Because he, regardless of his record, he's always going to have people that didn't want him there, that didn't want him there and don't like him, sort of thing. But yeah, that could be a factor. He might be wanting to play it a bit safe and give himself the best chance. Because, like you say, we should beat Japan and we should beat Italy, and the big three is England, France and Ireland. And like you say, we have every chance of losing any one of those matches because they're three great teams. So yeah, maybe he might play it safe and think, when I say play it safe, not play it safe, but he might think, I'll give myself the best chance of putting the best winning team on there, and I'll take those players with the experience like TJ and Sam Kane, who are still playing well, and will give me the best chance of winning those big, tight matches, because they will be the big, tight matches. The other guys should be able to beat the Japan and Italy type thing. But can I also say, Piney, just quickly want to touch, yesterday there was a caller said about a really interesting call about New Zealand teams in general, a trend coming through with the netball cricketers and that of not having the ability to put the foot on the throat, so to speak. And I thought that was quite good, because I think he might have hit on something there, because you look at the Aussie cricket team, they've always had that ability to put the foot on the throat, and we might call it have the mungle in them. And the same with their netballers, the Aussie netballers. And I think, like, you look at the netball, I think our netball girl who's taken over the Kiwis, I think she's trying to install that somehow. I don't know how you teach it, but you're getting beaten by 1 or 2 points and trying to teach that ability to put the foot on the throat when they really need to bring it home with the win. Because, I think Kiwis are a bit, like you said, we're a bit too soft for our own good. When you look at that America's Cup that time when we lost it to Spittle, and we sort of shot ourselves in the foot because we made a time, you can make the rules when you're the challenger, and we put a time limit on that race that we lost. Whereas if we held out, it might have taken a while, but we were in the lead and we probably would have won that, and we would have won that America's Cup. And then we also gave them a rest day, allowed them a rest day, and they brought the English fella, the best sailor in the world at the time, in, and then they altered their boat. And again, it all was beating us. So I thought, I think somehow we're a bit too good, a bit too kind for our own good, and somehow we need to learn how to, like the Aussie teams and that, put that foot on the throat, and
felt like we spoke about it yesterday. I think the word I used was too nice. I'm not sure soft is right. I think too nice was what I said. But there clearly is there's a school of thought that just as a nation we and I think in general terms it's probably not a bad way to be labelled, that we're generally nice to people, but on the sporting field maybe something has to change around our mongrel, as you call it. Good to chat to you as always. 0800 80 1080. Just take a text before we go to a break. Colin says, why not ask both TJ and Kane to go on the second team tour? They could teach the youngsters how to become class players and people. Look, I think it's a good point. So where is their best use? For building for the future, I feel like you do that next year, right? France are going to send an understrength team here in June. So why don't we build for the future then? England, Ireland, France in consecutive weeks are 3 tough test matches. All losable. Give yourself the best chance of winning, especially when you've had 3 losses from 9 already. 16-1, back with more calls after this.
Don't get caught offside. Call 0800 80 1080. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner Homes. New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
13-1 on text from BK. I think it's time to bring Peter Larkai through to the All Blacks. I watched the Wellington game yesterday, and while he played number 8, his form is becoming irresistible. 100% will be the starting 7 at the Rugby World Cup 2027. Imagine, says BK, Larkai, Satiti and Ardi in the back row. It's a fairly mouth-watering prospect, isn't it? Let's go back to the lines. Adam, hi.
G'day, mate. So based upon the word experience, Peter Larkai won't get in.
No, well, I mean, I guess you can mix it up, right? But if it's a choice between Kane and Larkai, and you're picking on experience, then clearly Kane is the guy they take.
Yeah, this is how I see it. So in sport, let's say you're in the top 3 of a position, regardless of experience, don't you deserve to be chosen?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. I don't think experience means much. We've already lost 3 test matches this year based on experience.
Do you think? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk specifics then. So, and this is very opinion based, but for you, is TJ one of the top 3 halfbacks?
No, not anymore, and that's fine. He gets older, he's slowed down. That's just reality. It's what happens in sport. At some point, you're just not good enough. You were good, you're just not quite there anymore. I'd be dragging 3 young guys, and Cam Roigard. Sure, I mean, the guy was just saying, he's only just got back into it. He was phenomenal yesterday. He had 1 game.
Yeah, I know. He was amazing, eh? Yeah.
He's already the best halfback in New Zealand after 1 game.
That's the crazy thing as well, Adam. I was thinking about this yesterday after I chatted to Cam Roigard, and thinking to myself, has there ever been a player with so few test matches under his belt? And last year at the World Cup, you remember, he didn't even play the big games, didn't play beyond the group stages. He's had 5 test matches, but off the back of a Super Rugby form this year, has there ever been any player who's only played less than half a dozen tests who's been such a red-hot first choice?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, he's X-Factor, and he may be the missing link in that back line. The other thing is, I'd be changing centre. I don't necessarily agree with Anton Leonard-Brown. I'd be putting Billy Proctor there. What's wrong with Billy Proctor?
No, yep. You won't get an argument from me. You will not get an argument from me. I think moving forward, and we don't know about Geordie yet. Anton Leonard-Brown can cover 12 and 13, obviously, and he played 12 against the Wallabies with Rico at 13. I think moving forward, you've got to give Geordie Barrett and Billy Proctor a crack together in midfield for the All Blacks.
I think Billy Proctor's too creative to leave out, and I just don't understand why we persist with Rico Awani at centre, given that he was an absolute world-class wing who was scoring effectively, 1.5 tries per test there for a while. Just madness that he's been pushed into centre. I heard a comment we do things like that a lot. We turned him into a centre. Maybe he wanted to go there. That's fine. But you've got to be good enough. I'm not sure he is. I think there are better creative players. He's quite a big body, but he's got sheer pace. You put him on the outside and let someone create for him. Who was it that was saying? Was it Isaac Boss? Yeah, he was saying that Cam Roigard can play first 5. Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard him say that as well. I think he played a bit of first 5 growing up. Look, he's what a freak. He's probably good at golf as well, Adam. If you gave him a golf club, he'd probably be good at that as well. He's one of these annoying guys who's good at everything.
Just put him at prop, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure that would be necessarily the right choice, but good points well made, Adam. Thanks, mate. It'll be interesting to see what Razor does. This is I think, the big talking point tomorrow is what he does in the halfback spot, because he's only going to take 3. And look, the All Blacks 15 is there as well, so TJ will be going north. It's just a matter of which plane he'll be on. For me, I'd have him at the All Blacks. Others would have him in the All Blacks 15. Razor's view is really all that matters. Grant, thanks for holding on, mate. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Piney, 100% agree with you and disagree with the last caller about TJ's form. But, the World Cup is 3 years away, not next year, so plenty of time for build-up. And to my mind, the best way to build up this year for the World Cup is to play the best team possible in the big test matches and win as many of those as possible. And although Sam and TJ have had the odd game where they haven't been at their best, I think overall both of them are the number one at the moment in their position. And so not only would I take Sam and TJ on the All Blacks or in the All Black squad, I would start them in the games against Ireland, England and France.
So this is why opinion is so great, Grant. Compared to the previous caller, Adam, you would have TJ starting. He hasn't got TJ in his first 3 halfbacks. So that's what it's all. That's what it's all about. Some opinions, and as I say, Razors is really the only one that counts. And we'll find out what's on his mind tomorrow afternoon at 2:00 when these squads are named. 7-1, News Talk ZB. George, part of our commentary team on Gold Sport and iHeartRadio. He's going to have a chat to us. Mark Robinson, New Zealand Rugby CEO, in just a sec. Just want to get through a couple of texts I didn't get to last hour regarding All Blacks selection. Anton Leonard-Brown has to be in the midfield for the All Blacks, either at 12 or 13. If he's at 12, Billy Proctor at 13. If he's at 13, Geordie Barrett at 12. He's like a key who unlocks his outsides. He's like a more skilled version of Conrad Smith. Goodness me. A more skilled version than Conrad Smith. He's like glue, holding the back line together. Thank you for that text. Steve says, Piney, I think another position we need to look at is hooker. Cody Taylor's been brilliant, but other than him, questions need to be asked. Steve, I wonder what they'll do with the third hooker. Whether George Bell is your man. Samasoni Tokiaho out till next season. I don't know whether I've seen enough from George Bell this year to suggest that he is the third All Blacks hooker. If Cody Taylor was to be injured, Asafo Amua presumably would start. Would George Bell be your man? Ricky Riccatelli, Kurt Eklund? But more experience, there's that word again. So again, the All Blacks 15 hookers and the All Blacks hookers will be interesting to have a look at tomorrow. Ray says, Piney, I hope Plummer plays out of his skin today and shows what he's got and what he could do on this tour. Thanks, Ray. From Alex, I can see Perenara going on the tour. It's easier to accommodate a veteran as third halfback. Hotham and Roygaard both need game time, so I can see one of them being picked for the All Blacks 15 instead of just running drinks. Yeah, look, that's likely to be Noah Hotham, I would say. And Noah Hotham, if he goes on the All Blacks 15 tour, will probably start both tests against, or both games, Georgia and Munster. Text lines open all afternoon, 9292 0800 80 10 80 gets you through on the phone. Approaching 11 past 1 every couple of months, we schedule in a chat with New Zealand Rugby CEO Mark Robinson on various rugby issues, and there are a few around. Today's that day. Thanks for your time, Mark. Fresh chat this week. Let's start with this, that France may send an under-strength side here next year for 3 test matches. In discussions with your French counterparts, I know you've been chatting to them over the last couple of days. Have you been able to get any more clarity on this?
Well, yeah, good afternoon, Piney, and hi to all the listeners. Yeah, we were, as we said in a statement through the week, we were a little bit surprised to find this out earlier in the week. And so initially there was a conversation with World Rugby around what was happening with regards to this and checking in on some of the regulations, and then, as you said, had a chat with my French counterpart yesterday. Look, they're going to have a think about where things are at in relation to their position, but I think that the key thing out of this is to recognise that regardless of what happens through this process, there's a massive amount to look forward to for the fans for next year in terms of the quality of the opposition we're going to face. France will still send an incredibly strong side. They've had great success at under 20 level in recent years, and clearly they're one of the top teams in the world. So that, combined with South Africa at home and Australia at home, means that we're going to have an incredible series. But yeah, we've got a little bit more work to do, Piney, just to understand the options here and let France come back to us after only probably a 15-20 minute chat yesterday morning with their CEO.
Cause I think we'd love to see Antoine Dupont here, right? We'd all love to see a player of his calibre and others in that French team come down. Do World Rugby have any rules around making yourself available at certain times for national tours?
Yeah, Regulation 9, sets out the windows where we hope that all national unions treat with respect in terms of making sure that teams are at full strength when they tour different destinations. So that's obviously one, and a few other things that we just need to check in and to understand here before we have further discussions. But I think by and large we've all got to respect that when we look at Ireland here in 2022 and we look at England here this year, both took fantastic approaches to touring with full strength sides. Certainly the Nations Cup, which I've been working on while I've been away, as you mentioned, sets up a competition in July and November where every international team will be encouraged to be sending their best teams to compete for what's going to be a highly regarded and highly contested competition. So yeah, there are some things in play around that, but like a lot of things on the international game and in the different forums we work in, there are processes and compromises to work through.
All right, well, let's hope for some clarity and some positivity around that when discussions continue. Sounds like you're also close to signing off on a 3-test, 8-match tour of South Africa 2026. Can you give us any update there?
Yeah, we are. We're making really good progress, Piney. We obviously I was in South Africa for about 10 days around the 2 test matches, and definitely there's been some really good advancement with that. There's just a few things to work through around, the commercial arrangements and the final schedule. But I'd like to think, we're getting closer to that in the coming weeks, and maybe up to 6 to 8 weeks, sort of thing.
How would that affect the Rugby Championship?
Well, we're working on different models for that with Australia and Argentina at the moment, and that's in time that'll probably be more for SANZAAR to comment on, when everything's finalised. But we certainly, want to make sure that our partners in the SANZAAR JV have great schedules and great competition, and there's a whole range of different things being talked about there. In 26 and 2030, obviously, 2026, sorry, in 2030, there'll obviously be, more change than maybe some of those intervening years where some of the previous models are being looked at, as well as some other concepts around touring. And, we just need a little bit more time on that. In 2026 and 2030, maybe there's a possibility to include other nations, the likes of, maybe Fiji and Japan, and there's also the possibilities of us still playing, regular fixtures, especially like the Bledisloe. So there's, in our mind, when you combine, those tour concepts, what we're looking to finalise with the Rugby Championship, as well as the 2 Lions tours, a World Cup in this part of the world, and the Club World Cup that we're working on for 2028, there's still, a massive amount of opportunity for fans and a lot of excitement for people in this part of the world to follow rugby.
Are you suggesting that Japan or Fiji might replace the All Blacks in the Rugby Championship?
No, not at all. I'm just saying that in some of those weeks where we're in 26 and 2030, there might be possibilities for them to be involved in fixtures. That's to be worked through, I guess. I mean, you've got to realise that in 2026, if the Nations Cup begins, there's a possibility that countries like Fiji and Japan will be involved at international, top-tier international level already. So, a natural extension of that in years such as the South Africa All Blacks tours, there might be other opportunities as well.
Are we going to see an Anzac Day Bledisloe Cup test moving forward?
Oh, look, we remain open-minded on it. We certainly had a lot of good time in Australia when I was in Sydney for the Bledisloe 1 this year to talk through some of those things, and we just need a little bit more time with it. There's obviously some potential impacts to think about as it relates to Super Rugby, and we just need to understand, like a lot of these things, the commercial model, the player welfare considerations, and how it fits into the overall calendar. So, look, we had a really good discussion about it. There seems to be certainly some fan interest in it, following things like social media and that sort of thing. So we just need a little bit more time on that, Piney. Is
this in a way placating Australia, given the fact you might be touring South Africa by the looks of it? So maybe less Rugby Championship content, for example. Is this a way of placating the Australians by saying, okay, we'll play a Bledisloe Cup test on Anzac Day as a quid pro quo or similar?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're working through an arrangement in the current work with SANZAAR that we would continue to play the 2 Bledisloe matches that we do at present, going forward. The two matches we play currently around the Rugby Championship. I think, this is something new and interesting that clearly has resonated with fans. It's a really important date in both the New Zealand and Australian calendars, and it's something that is certainly worth consideration on its own merits.
What have you made of the All Blacks' first 9 test matches under Scott Robertson?
Oh, look, overall, the direction of travel we're really encouraged by. But, as a team, as Razor and team has acknowledged, no one around the All Blacks or in the organisation likes to lose, and so there's clearly some disappointment there. But overall, when you think of the change we've had in management and the playing group, and you combine that with an extremely tough schedule, when you look at where where we've toured in terms of South Africa, England at home, a top sort of 5-team team in the world as well, and then the kind of end of year tour we've got. Overall, we're really encouraged by the unearthing of some really, really great young talent. Definitely some, I think everyone can see the progression in the game of the team. So overall, we're pretty happy. But always, as there are in all of our teams in black environments, there's always work to do, and they're always really demanding. So we'll just keep supporting them all we can. But absolutely, we think it's been a pretty solid start.
A year out from their World Cup, how worried should we be about the Black Ferns?
Oh, look, I think, when we saw the game, I was up at Twickenham for the game against England, and there were some really encouraging signs there as well. I think everyone would acknowledge there have been some really positive shifts in large, many aspects of the play of the team, and clearly the game against Ireland was a disappointment. Again, the senior players and Alan clearly frustrated by that. But I think, again, the overall trajectory was still 12 months or so to go. Again, emergence of a lot of good young talent, a full Super Rugby O-Picky season in front of us, and 2 more tough tests in coming days. We still think they're preparing well. But yeah, there'll be, when the team gets home, we'll have to take the time to review those, this campaign and understand how we can help them to improve going into next year. All right, couple of wider issues. Where are we with the 20-minute red card in international rugby? Oh, look, we hope that'll go back to council with World Rugby in mid-November for a vote at that stage. I think there'd been some countries and one in particular, France, obviously, who are very clear in their views. But I think overall there seems to be an acknowledgement that it would be a good thing for the game. And there's a couple actually sort of small alterations being looked at to give confidence to more nations around the world that it's the right thing for the game. But again, we just have to work through that when we get up into the Northern Hemisphere in November. The process for the appointment of the new New Zealand Rugby Board, I see there was some updates on that yesterday with Dame Patsy Reddy confirming she won't restand. We have a process for the appointment of a new board, hopefully before the end of the year. Is this something you just keep an eye on? You work in the operational space, obviously. This is a board thing. Do you have any involvement in this at all? No, I don't. There's a governance stakeholder panel set up to help support the appointment of an appointments and remuneration committee, which sort of selects the board. And I'm not involved in any of those discussions. Have you read Johnny Sexton's book? No, I haven't. There's obviously a bit of noise about that through the week. I'm sure he's sold a few more versions of it as a result of the going between him and Nikau. But I think I did some media early in the week where I just said this has been, rightly or wrongly, it's been part of the game for a long time. And I think normally it's certainly left on the field. Clearly, that's not the case this time round. But we don't really get involved in it too much. It's certainly been great for the fans to sort of speculate on and have their views on. And it's just another one of the interesting stories going on around the game at present. All right. And your Amber and Blacks, your beloved Amber and Blacks, have a crack at winning the Loggerwood off Tasman. I think most people want it to stay in Tasman, don't they, Mark? Well, yeah, I've had a couple of people chip me away through the week about why the Barrett boys aren't playing, and I've sort of said I'm a little bit more removed from that. Go and talk to Razor. So, look, it's great, isn't there? There's been some amazing scenes down in the top of the south through the year. And, we're delighted to see so much passion around the competition. As we've always said, it's got a very pivotal part in the game in New Zealand, and it's just great to see so much good coverage around it and great provincial rivalries and some of those histories being brought to life in the community. So it's all good stuff. Always appreciate your availability to me and to our audience, Mark. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks, Piney. Take care. You take care too, Mark. Mark Robinson there, CEO of New Zealand Rugby. You might have some views on some of the stuff that was talked about there. 0800 80 1080 is our number. Anzac Day test, this has been talked about. I think this will happen. It feels as though it will. What will it mean for Super Rugby? It'll have a major impact. Anzac Day, of course, being in April, which is kind of right in the heart of Super Rugby. And it won't just be players coming out for a weekend. It'll be the week leading in, the week after for recovery, that sort of thing. There's all sorts of
protocols around this sort of thing. So an Anzac Day test, like I say, it just feels to me as though it's something that New Zealand Rugby have thrown to Rugby Australia as a bit of a bone. Throw them a bone because here we are, New Zealand Rugby and South African Rugby planning for these tours in 2026, the All Blacks to go there, presumably the other way in 2030. And Australia are kind of on the outside of that looking in. So I feel as though the Anzac Day test is a way to placate them, give them, because the biggest draw card for the Wallabies is playing against the All Blacks. No question about it. It's the biggest draw card for fans, for broadcasters, for sponsors, all that sort of thing. So I feel as though that's been put in there so that there's something for them while the All Blacks and South African Rugby plan for this tour, which by the sounds of it is 3 test matches and 5 midweek games, or maybe a Saturday, 3 test matches and midweek games, however they stack it up. Looking forward to it. I think a lot of us have missed the days of tours, old-fashioned tours. And that looks like it's going to be locked in. And France next year sending a weekend side down here. I don't think this is new either. This was reported a few months ago that this may well happen. Compare it to the way that Ireland sent a team down here in 2022. England sent a team down here this year. The problem is the French clubs have far too much power. Far too much power. That's the issue here. They rule the roost over there. I think what I read or saw was that whoever or any players who are playing in the top 14 final for any of those French clubs won't come. Andy told me yesterday, producer Andy, that Antoine Dupont has only played, I think he said, and he's just on the phone at the moment, I might get him to clarify this. Andy, you told me yesterday Antoine Dupont has played very few test matches outside of Europe. Was it 1 or 2?
Correct, but it was 4, as according to my calculation. He played one of his first few tests in 2017 against South Africa, and then he played 3 tests in Japan in the 2019 Rugby World Cup, and I think that's it outside of Europe.
Wow.
And this goes along with all of his club games and whatnot, so he's probably played over 200 professional games of rugby, if I was to hazard a guess, in Europe, and 4 outside of it.
That's mental. That is crazy. What a crazy stat. Is he afraid of flying?
I imagine not. Given what he does on the rugby field, I don't think he has any fear, to be honest. But you can't. I mean, I rate him as probably the best player in the world, but there's still that shadow hanging over him. If you're the best, you've got to be able to go away from home a long way and win. And if you think about that South Africa test as well, that's not even in a different time zone. So he's really only had 3 tests where he's had to travel and do the body clock stuff that a lot of the All Blacks and a lot of other rugby players actually have to do when they go on tour.
Mm. Well, it'd be great to see him here, wouldn't it? I think we all want to see him here. We want to see a full-strength French side, just like when Ireland came here, when England came here early this year for 2 really good test matches. We'd love to see a full-strength French side here, but by the sounds of it, there's no hope of it, unfortunately. Thanks, mate. That is quite the glaring gap, though, in Antoine Dupont's CV. Hello, Kane.
That's why he'll never be the GOAT, I reckon. And reason. I reckon when I listen to Razor on his interviews, he reminds me of Doc, the mad scientist from Back to the Future. And I reckon if he's anything like the mad scientist he is, boy, it'd be great for Razor to somehow try and plan for Rieko Ioane to be the first try scorer of the first test. How good would that be?
Against Ireland, yeah. Well, there's already a great storyline, isn't there, around that? I mean, can you imagine the reception Rieko Ioane is going to get in Dublin when the All Blacks play Ireland?
I would feel it all the way back here, and I'll tell you all, mate, we'd feel it all the way back here, and but that would be awesome if we could somehow work Rieko into the first try of the Irish test, of the first test. That'd just be right out the block. So that'd really fire everybody up. But I wouldn't mind seeing the young ones playing actually against the big 3, because no bigger tests, than the big 3 really, because they are the big 3 of Europe. So I wouldn't mind seeing the likes of, but I mean, Sammy, if Sam Kane's still around, he's still slamming Sam Kane, so you can't sort of deny him and TJ may be pretty much on his way out. So, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Proctor and Rieko Ioane actually give Georgie a bit of a break.
I guess the issue there, Kane, is I guess the issue there is that neither of them is a second 5'8", both centres. So yeah, that would be problematic. I think moving forward, Billy Proctor is going to put massive pressure on Rieko Ioane for that 13 jersey. I watched him play yesterday for Wellington. It's the first time he's played a game of rugby for a long time. He played in that test match against Fiji up in San Diego. That was on the 20th of July. What's that, 3 months ago, nearly. He might have played the odd game for Wellington. I think I remember him playing 1 or 2 games, but the way he played yesterday, and I know it's a step down to the NPC, but he's a terrific player, Billy Proctor. I feel like he has to get one of those big test matches. He'll play against Japan, I would say. I get the feeling the team that plays against Japan will be very similar to the team that played against Fiji and San Diego, and they're going to send a bunch of players on to get ready for the England test. But I feel like Billy Proctor is one of those players who hasn't had a lot of opportunity this year, who should be putting real pressure on Rieko Ioane and on Scott Robertson to pick him. 1:30. Shaz says, Piney, you obviously didn't see George Bell playing for Canterbury last night. I didn't, actually. I watched the back end of that game. I tell you who I did like was that Isaac Hutchinson. Did you see him? The Canterbury fullback? He looks like a player, doesn't he? Is he 20? He looked really good, Isaac Hutchinson. But no, I didn't watch George Bell play, Shaz. By the sounds of it, from your text, he had a good game, so that's good to hear. He'll clearly be in one of these squads tomorrow as well. We don't have a heck of a lot of hookers, really, with Tokiaho injured and others who I don't think are in the frame at all. I think George Bell will be on one of those 2 planes. It's just a matter of which one. 29-2. We're back in a moment. Ranfurly Shield on the line for the last time in 2024 at Trafalgar Park in Nelson this afternoon. Tasman will try and see off a defence from Taranaki. We'll have a wee preview of this game coming up shortly.
The Ranfurly Shield, the mighty old log of wood.
Yeah, that was Tasman's first successful defence against Wellington on Wednesday night in the rain. They also repelled Auckland's challenge. Their third defence, and the last one of the year, is this afternoon against Taranaki in Nelson. It'll also be the final match for both sides in the NPC round robin before the playoffs. They'll both be there. As things stand, Wellington 40 points from 10 games. Tasman 37 from 9, Taranaki 35 from 9, Bay of Plenty 33 from 9. They play Auckland this afternoon. All of those 4, Wellington, Tasman, Taranaki and Bay of Plenty, will host a quarter-final. It's just which order they'll finish in and who they'll play against. 5, 6, 7 and 8 are set. Hawke's Bay, Canterbury, Waikato, Counties, Manukau in that order. Live commentary of Tasman, Taranaki, Gold Sport and iHeartRadio from 2:05 this afternoon. Malcolm Jordan has the call with long-time rugby coach and analyst Sam Ward alongside. Sam, it feels like Tasman are favourites. Is that how you see it?
Oh, I think, Piney, they have to be based on the rugby that they're playing this season. Obviously, they've lost a few guys in the form of Strange and Hicks up front in their line-out, but I think that the way that they all seem to be on the same page, they're really clear around how they want to play. I think there's balance to their game. They know when to kick the door in through the middle of the park, and they know when to, I suppose, unleash Tavatava Nawai out wide. And I think the balance of their game is really nice at the moment.
Having the Ranfurly Shield on the line has to be a factor too, doesn't it, Sam? I mean, of course, if they win, they also finish top, so it's a bit of a double punch. But that log of wood just adds something, doesn't it?
It certainly does. I think it's certainly heightened their focus, which isn't a bad thing heading into finals footy. It'd be easy to be worried about placings, etc. But I think today just needs to be a first jobs first focus and make sure they hold on to that log.
Taranaki could win though, couldn't they? They're not a bad side, the Amber and Blacks.
They're a very good side. Neil Barnes has done an awesome job getting that back up and running. They obviously won it last year, and while they haven't been, I suppose, at the top for the whole of this year, they're warming into their work nicely. It'd be good to see Slater come in to the front row. Obviously, they've made a few changes up front, and they've got an unbelievably exciting back line with Jacob obviously running the cutter and the 3 Fijians at the back in space could be deadly.
What about the All Blacks who are coming back in? Do you expect them to have a large impact on this?
Yes and no. I mean, yesterday we saw Roigard and Papali'i coming in for counties, both scored, and obviously they'll be a big lift to the local boys. But, I mean, teams have been, I suppose, working hard for close to 10 weeks now, 9-10 weeks, including a pre-season. So they've found their rhythm and their cohesion. So as long as the All Blacks can add to what they're doing and not shake it up too much, then obviously they'll be in a good space.
Yeah, you look at it and you say, OK, Ethan Blackadder, Noah Hotham, David Havili. That's some pretty good cattle coming back for Tasman. I don't think Noah Hotham's even starting, is he? I think Hotham's on the bench, isn't he, with Christie starting again, which is probably fair enough.
Yeah, and that's probably just a sign of that cohesion that they're after. It's obviously been working well with them. Havili, the youngest, been steering the ship really well, and obviously having his brother outside him is going to be very effective for them.
Who do you reckon wins the whole thing? I know this is probably a difficult question to ask before we even get to quarterfinals, but Tasman are clearly going to be there or thereabouts. Taranaki we've talked about. What about my Wellington, Sam? Can you give us any optimism there? Because, well, they were 21-0 down after quarter of an hour yesterday, eventually got up and won it. Could Wellington sort of be there or thereabouts when the grand final rolls around?
I think Wellington have got that typical Hurricanes Wellington power. They're obviously a big side who can absolutely light it up. They love going through the front door and not around the side. And I think Soakai's done a really good job with them. He's got them looking pretty well organised. But obviously, Duplessis Karifi is a massive influence for them. When their tail's up, they're a really dangerous team. And if they're thereabouts come finals time, then they're going to give themselves every opportunity. They just need to get it right on the day.
You mentioned Cam Roigard yesterday. I'm not suggesting counties are going to win the whole thing, but wasn't it so good to see him back out there yesterday? It's like he'd never left, those side steps on what are clearly fully functioning knees now. He looked good, didn't he?
Yeah, fantastic. And obviously with a big injury like that, you're never sure how guys are going to come back. It's obviously be a bit achy for him, but he's obviously put together a really strong return to play plan. And as the call mentioned, he whacked a left side step to score that try, and he looked pretty strong.
Good man, Sam. So who you got this afternoon? You got Tasman?
It's going to be a bare knuckle scrap, and I reckon Tasman will turn the corner with about 12 minutes to go and get the job done.
Good man, Sam. Look forward to your call alongside Malcolm Jordan. Thanks for your time this afternoon.
Appreciate it. Cheers, Piney.
All the best, mate. That's Sam Ward. You can hear him on Gold Sport and iHeartRadio alongside Malcolm Jordan. I'll have the call for you from just after 2 o'clock this afternoon. We'll keep an eye on it for you as well. Trafalgar Park in Nelson. Final game of the round robin for these two sides. They will both, as I say, be involved in quarterfinal action. They will both host a quarterfinal. You look at the table and let's say if Tasman win, they go top. They will have hosting rights all the way through the final series. They'd go to 41 points with a win, 42 with a bonus point. Wellington currently on 40. If Taranaki were to win, they would go above Tasman into second place. They're on 35 points at the moment. They would go above Tasman into second. If they got a bonus point, they'd go to 40, which would be equal with Wellington. However, the first separator of sides that are equal on points is the head-to-head result. And Wellington beat Taranaki in round robin. So Taranaki cannot finish top. They can, however, finish in the top two. And, of course, if they win this afternoon, they'll have the Ranfurly Shield to take home with them. Bay of Plenty are on 33 points. They face Auckland this afternoon, who cannot make the top four. This game is being played at Auckland Grammar School, which is something a bit interesting. But if Bay of Plenty were to win this afternoon, they would go to at least 37 and potentially 38 points. So they would jump over, unless it's a draw between Tasman and Taranaki, they would jump over one of the two of them. So they could get themselves up into the top three. Again, though, I'm not sure that Bay of Plenty could finish in the top two. I don't think there's a way that can happen. Because even if they were to get to 38 points and Tasman stayed on 37 with a loss, Taranaki would go past them. So yeah, Bay of Plenty can't finish top two. So the quarterfinal matchups will be confirmed at around 6:30, 7 o'clock tonight. But Wellington, Tasman, Taranaki and Bay of Plenty will host a quarterfinal next weekend, and they'll play against one of Hawke's Bay, Canterbury, Waikato, Counties, Manukau. Those are your top 8 confirmed in the Bunnings NPC. 19-2. Let's get a breakaway. James McConey on the other side.
The big issues on and off the field. Call 0800 80 1080. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes. New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
Coming up 1:45, let's get to James McConey in his regular Sunday slot. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks, Piney. How's things with you?
Very good, very good. I want to start with the Whara Palmer Cup final. I thought Waikato were firm favourites. In fact, I know they were. Canterbury ran them pretty close yesterday in Hamilton.
Yeah, they did. It was very close. 2 points in it. Waikato winning 27-25. But the thing about this rivalry is it's one for the ages. Every game is a classic, and no different yesterday in Hamilton. So Waikato, yeah, they were, they're a stacked team this year, but what happens is you see the intensity and the physicality, and immediately it passes the eye test. You know that this game is something special, is something big. It's a bit like when you watch Origin and you go, okay, there's a bit more feeling in this. And what they've got, though, with that rivalry is something to really, for rugby as well, is to sell. You think that's something that you could probably turn into a series. Why not turn it into a Whara Palmer State of Origin type thing?
Yeah, why not? Because I think earlier in the season, it was a pretty tight game. I think Canterbury might have even beaten Waikato. Was it 10-7 earlier in the season? So they're clearly pretty evenly matched. And so in hindsight, I think Waikato were paying $1.10 to win that game yesterday. $6 for Canterbury.
Yeah, well, Canterbury have nullified them so many times. It's always a heartbreak. It's always a one-score game. And at the end, there's always players on their knees. It just means so much. So, you just got to congratulate the team in the competition for having an occasion like that as a final. Can you remember when Victoria Edwards was Waikato captain the last time they won? And she dropped an F-bomb on TV? Probably the greatest F-bomb in New Zealand TV history, I'd say.
All right, well, there's something to aspire to for future generations, perhaps. Now, the All Blacks will name their team or their squad tomorrow for the Northern Tour. Chatted about this last hour. What's your view, James, on whether TJ Perenara and Sam Cane will be among the All Black squad?
It all changes when you see Cam Roigard playing yesterday, doesn't it? That was so impressive.
Wow, yeah.
If you can, go and look at the highlights on Sky Sport now or YouTube, and you just go, okay, this guy, Roigard, just looks so impressive, and he is shot out of a cannon. He's so quick now. He's got the legs of a velociraptor. It's just, it's unfair, really. But if they're true to giving him more time, then you'd take him on the All Blacks 15 tour and let TJ stay in that role that he's had, which is mainly off the bench. It's become that, really, with Cortez and Atama emerging and having that insurance. So I would still take TJ Perenara. I just know that Cam Roigard needs those extra few games on the Northern Tour, and then bang, he's in, and he might even leapfrog them all, right?
Oh, I think he just seems like the one, doesn't he? And I heard him say during the week that he feels exactly the same as he did before the injury happened. Didn't seem to be any trepidation in stepping off the injured knee a couple of times when he scored that second try, did there? So, yeah, looking forward to seeing what he can produce, whichever jersey he's wearing at the back end of the year. He'll no doubt be a big part of the All Blacks next year. By the sounds of it, though, France are sending a weakened side down here. What do you make of this?
Look, France, clearly they don't care. They shrug their shoulders a lot. It's what they do. They go poof like that. It's not really a word, but and remember, in the past they've sent experimental teams. I think it totaled over 40 players when they sent one experimental team that came close to breaking the Eden Park hoodoo. Then they brought the reinforcements for Game 2, and they were absolutely terrible, clearly enjoying business class a bit too much on the way down. But that stat about Antoine Dupont only playing, is it 4 tests away from home? Is that right, Brian?
Crazy. Yeah, crazy, eh? Yeah, just unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, that sums up. We've never seen them at full strength here. They're just messing around, and they don't care. They care about their club competition. I think we should invite another European team as well. Invite Scotland. I've looked this up on the All Blacks website. The last time they toured here is the year 2000, Piney, which is crazy given how good they are.
Absolutely, and the fans they'd bring. Imagine a Scottish, the Scottish fans spending time down here. That'd be brilliant.
I know. I just couldn't believe it. I'm on the All Blacks stats website, and I've had to sort of double take it, but that is incredible, really. Half the players weren't even born then. So this is something that needs to be rectified immediately, but I think that's actually not a bad way if World Rugby allows it. So we'll send two Northern Hemisphere teams down, because, you know, we can do the same and play our experimental players against France, and give Scotland top billing when they come down. So that's something that needs to be sorted out straight away. And just while we're on the All Blacks, before we move on, I was going to say, in the hooker position, it's so tough working out who plays. And even though Ricky Tally probably deserves a nudge at All Blacks level, I just don't want him to become a player who goes in and then goes out and doesn't get a chance to play international rugby. He qualifies for three nations, Piney: New Zealand, Italy, obviously, with his, and then USA as well. So I feel like he should maybe just choose Italy and just play 50 tests.
Yeah, and why wouldn't he? I think a lot of people thought he might get the nod this year as the third hooker, but that clearly hasn't happened. So yeah, we wait to see what lies in his future. Hey, just before you go, in a couple of weeks, it's only 2 weeks away. In fact, less than 2 weeks until Auckland FC's debut in the A-League. Reports this week that they might be looking at building a purpose-built stadium at Western Springs.
Yeah, that would be massive. I mean, there's been so much back and forth about Western Springs, currently the home of Ponsonby Rugby and also Speedway, but that apparently expires next year. So both those leases, and now, I mean, it's been talked about as a test cricket ground as well, but clearly they thought that the Waterfront Stadium was a good option until they saw how dysfunctional that process was. So I think that scared off the billionaire owner, Bill Foley, and he's thought, along with the other owners, how can we actually just control this and do our own thing? And this looks to be the easiest, cost-effective way to get an 8,000-seater. I'm all for this, Piney. This actually might work, because if you can make it, it probably needs to be a bit more than 8,000, but if you can find a home there, then it just solves all those problems that you have with those empty seats and just having your own boutique stadium in the heart of Auckland.
Absolutely. I feel like 10 to 12 might be more what you'd be after. But you're so right. A rectangular, purpose-built boutique stadium. Yeah, I mean, it's you'll remember the Phoenix owners, sort of toyed with the idea of doing it in Petone and even had some plans drawn up. But that didn't come to anything. So hopefully the owners of Auckland FC can make it happen. Hey, thanks, James. Always good to chat. Hope you have an enjoyable rest of your Sunday, and we'll chat again next week, shall we?
Cheers, Piney. Go the Panthers.
Go the Panthers. Why not? 8 away from 2. News Talk ZB.
eagerly, gleefully by Diogo Jota. And it's taken 8 minutes for the league leaders to strike.
Yeah, but that's all they got. 1-0 Liverpool over Crystal Palace. Nipping at their heels, Arsenal.
Trossard brings it forward here for Arsenal as Martinelli to his left. Saka! And that should take care of that.
Yeah, 3-1 winners over Southampton were the Gunners. Defending champions Manchester City there too.
Options gathering in the middle. He fancies it himself. Oh, that is fantastic. Probably sees off Fulham.
City were 3-2 winners over Fulham. To rugby, a happy return yesterday for Cam Roigard.
Yeah, they're on the halfway, pick and go. Brilliant offload. In the tackle for Papali. And now Roigard with the footwork, the class and the finish. Beautifully done by Dalton Papali. What a finish from Roigard, who looks like he hasn't missed a minute.
Yeah, Counties 45, Manawa 226. Wellington, meantime, had to come from 21-0 down after 15 minutes to eventually beat Hawke's Bay. First receiver up towards the 5-metre line. Julian Savia busting towards the try line and over. What a good try by Julian Savia. Wellington 46, Hawke's Bay 28, and Southland had an absolute field day against North Harbour down south.
It was 21-0 after about 10 minutes. As the ball is just going to bounce up, and it's going to be a try to Jake Strawn. It has been that kind of afternoon for the Southland Stags.
59-35 they won yesterday, the Stags, in Canterbury. Very impressive against Waikato.
Oh, boy, yippee. Crossfield kick. Oh, the spin move. Isaac Hutchinson. He's got himself a hat-trick. That'll do it for Canterbury.
36-19 to Canterbury in the MPC, but the fortunes were flipped when Waikato and Canterbury met in the Farah Palmer Cup Premiership Final.
Ball's there. It's going to go. And it's going to be Nipia. Nipia kicks it out. And the game is over. Waikato are the FPC champions. 27 points to 25. Oh, everybody's going on fire down on the sideline.
When it's down to the line, you make the call on 0800 80 1080. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, News Talk ZB.
11 past 2, a mouth-watering NRL Grand Final in Prospect tonight. Minor premiers, the Melbourne Storm.
42-18 is a bold statement. Munster will get it again. Now Munster's got another. Melbourne Grand Finalists. Melbourne, are they premiership favourites based on this?
They'll take on three-time defending champions, the Penrith Panthers.
Here's Ruai, the right foot kick. Martin, yes! An exclamation mark from the Panthers as they march on to the first Sunday in October.
What a game in Prospect. Tawera Nikau was one of our best ever rugby league players. After time with Canterbury Bankstown, he spent several years in the UK before coming back to the NRL with Cronulla. In 1998, he joined the Melbourne Storm in the club's inaugural year, helping them to a third-place finish in the minor premiership and a place in the finals before they lost eventually to the premiers, Brisbane Broncos. The following year, 1999, the Storm finished third again. This time went on to win the grand final 2018 over the St George Illawarra Dragons to claim their first championship. Among his many other awards and accolades, Tawera Nikau was last year inducted as a life member of the Melbourne Storm. He joins us now. Tawera, let's go back to 1998. How fondly do you remember your time with the Storm?
Oh, mate, it was a great time there. Really enjoyed being part of the Storm and the inaugural team going down there way back in 25 years ago now, Piney. So it's a long time, mate. So still living off that win from that one grand final. But it was a great time in rugby league and a great opportunity. So, going over there, going down to Melbourne, the new frontier, I suppose, and being very successful in a short amount of time. So it was absolutely fantastic.
What was it like at the very start of this club that has become something pretty special?
Well, we were very lucky, Tony. We had, a CEO, a guy called John Reeves, was really instrumental in setting up that club in a great fashion. Chris Anderson, the coach, really, really strong coach, really family-orientated coach, and we're very proud of the history and the culture that we initiated in those early days, and it's something that's under Craig Bellamy's gone to a whole new level. So, really outstanding, but great with the administrators, but also the players and the young players that came for an opportunity and really made a great effort over those first couple of seasons.
That 99 grand final, what stands out most vividly when you think back? Well, as you say, 25 years now, goodness me.
Well, I think, Piney, one of the main things about that was, the crowd. I think that was the biggest rugby league crowd because it was just before the Olympics. We played in 1999 at the Waco Stadium now, but I think it was 107,000 people there. And I played at Wembley earlier in my career, but it was about 99,000 there. But just the noise, the crowd, but the real camaraderie that the boys built up in those first couple of seasons was fantastic. The second year, 1999, we had Steve Kearney came from the Warriors, really added some firepower to our forward pack, and then, that sort of gave us a lot of impetus and momentum into that first grand final win against St. George.
You were down, though, 14-0 at half-time you were down. You are widely credited, along with a couple of others, for sparking the second-half comeback. What was said at half-time and what changed in the second half?
Yeah, the funny thing is we hadn't beaten St. George all year. They were one of those teams that had some amazing players, Nathan Backlock, Anthony Mundine, Jamie Ainscoe. They just had this real strike, and we struggled to play them because they used to come down the middle of the ruck, and we had a big forward pack. But I think one of the good things about, just having that self-belief that we had in ourselves, because nobody gave us a chance in the first couple of years. They said we were going to fail, we weren't going to be any good. And even when we got to the finals, they were writing us off anyway. So, we had nothing to lose. We just had, we had some great leadership in the organisation from our coach, Chris Anderson, and our captain, Glenn Lazarus. It was outstanding leadership in part of that. But I think in the second half, I remember going into the changing sheds at half-time, and me and Steve Kearney, and I said to him, Steve, mate, we've got 40 minutes left. Let's just get out there and rip into these guys. And we sort of came out, changed the momentum. We got on a bit of a roll. We scored a couple of tries, and then, we came home with a wet sail. So, that's all folklore and history now, Piney. But, it stands as a first ever premiership for the Melbourne Storm grand final. It's etched in folklore.
Indeed it is, even now, and will be for many, many more years. But let's fast forward to the present day. The Storm won the minor premiership this year, 19 wins from their 24 games. They got rid of the Sharks and the Roosters fairly comfortably in their finals matches. Would you have them as favourites against the Panthers tonight, the Storm?
Mate, it's a tough one. The Panthers have been in the last 5 grand finals. The last team to beat them in a grand final was the Melbourne Storm. So it all augurs well. But if you look back at, this year, they've been the best 2 teams. I think the Storm have probably gone to, and it's a tough one because you have Nathan Cleary hasn't played too much for them. I watched the game last week with the Sharks, and there was a couple of little cracks there for Penrith, which, usually they're very, very clinical. They don't make too many errors, but they made a few errors. So, it's going to be a tough game, but I just think with the spine that the Melbourne Storm have and the form that Jerome Hughes, Harry Grant, Ryan Pappenhausen, and also Cameron Munster are in, it's going to be a tough game. Could go anyway, but I'm tipping the Storm to win this one tonight.
Yeah, Jerome Hughes, Dally M winner, a popular winner too during the week. How important, how integral is he to the Storm side?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I don't know if you saw the Daily M speech, and he talked about how he's sort of grown into that role and done really well, but he credits Craig Bellamy, giving him some confidence. He credits being part of the New Zealand Kiwi team last year. He's really grown into this role as a leader, and he's really got that confidence now to lead from the front. So I think, with Munster there over the last couple of years, he was just sitting back. He's quite shy, Jerome, in terms of that, but, he's really stepped that up, and I think, I heard Craig Bellamy talk to him earlier in the year about, him taking that leadership role on, him owning the games, and, he's just thrived in that this year and gone to another level. So when you think about, Ivan Cleary's been probably the best player Nathan Cleary the last 2 or 3 seasons. Jerome's on a par, and probably this season is probably, edged out in front of him. But it's hard to beat Penrith. They've been there this is their 5th grand final in a row. So, they've got some experience, but they've lost a bit of experience too. So, these things catch up with you when you're playing in finals, when the pressure comes on. You just got to keep in the grind. And I think with Melbourne, and you've seen that over the last 2, the final series, they've gone about their business very, very well. Melbourne don't really beat themselves. You've got to do something extraordinary to beat them because defensively they're really good and they're fit. They're very fit, so they can manage to hang in the contest for big minutes. I think the game against the Sharks, they completed, was it 56 out of 58 sets or something, 98, 95%, something like that. It was some astronomical number in terms of that. So, and the other X factor they have is Craig Bellamy. He just continues to evolve and adapt and, give these players. And I think, Piney, if you look at a couple of their back rows, Sean Bloor played 2 years at the Tigers and was a wooden spooner. Ali Katoa, the last couple of years came from the Warriors. Yeah, he had a bit of talent, but they've both gone to another level. So, when you think about players and what they can do and the environment that they create, Craig Bellamy's a master at doing that.
Yeah, fascinating grand final and prospect tonight. Could be one of the best ever. Tawera, great chatting rugby league with you, mate. Thanks for taking the time.
Always a privilege, Piney. No worries. And go the mighty Storm.
Oh, go the Storm. All right. Yeah, well, I suppose it is your old team, isn't it? That's fair enough. Good on you, Tawera. Thanks indeed. Tawera Nikau. Ryan Girdler with a Panthers point of view in just a moment. To Trafalgar Park and Nelson, courtesy of Gold Sport.
It's pick and go from the Taranaki forwards, looking to use their might. They're under advantage again as they swing it wide. Daniel Rona to Josh Seto. Right running ball, and it's under the crossbar for Taranaki.
Yeah, Daniel Rona, the try scorer. Josh Jacob converting 7-0 to Taranaki after 7 minutes. But then William Havili kicked a penalty for Tasman, 7-3 after 11 minutes. But just in the last minute or so, Josh Jacob has converted another penalty. So, with 15 minutes gone at Trafalgar Park and Nelson, Tasman 3, Taranaki 10 in this Ranfurly Shield challenge, and also the final match in the round robin of the Bunnings NPC. We will keep you right up to date. 2:20, Ryan Girdler on the NRL Grand Final when we come back. Melbourne Storm v Penrith Panthers, 9:30 kickoff at Accor Stadium. Pleasure to welcome in Ryan Girdler, New South Wales State of Origin and Australia International representative. Over 200 games for the Penrith Panthers and winner in the side that picked up the 2003 NRL Premiership, beating the Roosters 18 points to 6 in the final. Ryan, thanks for joining us across New Zealand on News Talk ZB. Can we start in 2003? Can you remember your emotions heading into that grand final?
Oh, look, yeah, absolutely. It was the first grand final that the club had been in for some years. Obviously, 91 was our last premiership before that. So, like the community have just been spoiled, haven't they, the last 5 or so years on this brilliant run that they've had. But back then, it was slim pickings for Panthers fans, and we sort of came from nowhere, finished out of the 8 in 2002 and had some sort of junior pathway development players come through, the Luke Lewises and the Rooneys and the Waterhouses and the Rodneys. And we had a trial game. We played your boys actually over there in Croy, I don't know where it was. It might have been on the South Island there as an exhibition game early on in the season. Had a good result, and your guys were sort of obviously in the grand final the year before. So got a little bit of confidence out of that. Then went in and started the season 0-2 and thought, oh, here we go again. And then just found some form, and then sort of was able to maintain that momentum throughout the season, and then ended up in being minor premiers and going into the finals in good touch, and won our major, like the first semi against the Broncos, and then beat the Warriors in the prelim, and were able to go on and get the Roosters in the GF. So it was, it's obviously a while ago, but it was the back end of my career, so I was old enough to kind of know how important that experience was and how rare it was to achieve premiership glory in a club that wasn't used to having that sort of success.
And ahead of such a big occasion, Ryan, how did you and the other players keep the emotions and the excitement in check? How do you just try and approach it like any other game, if that's possible?
It was interesting, like we had a few guys like myself that had a fair bit of experience in bigger games, in Origins and Test matches and World Cups. So we kind of knew what it was about and what it represented. But as I said, we had all these young guys coming in that had really no expectations. We're just going out there, bringing lots of energy and just taking it literally, each week at a time. So as we got into the finals, there was still a lot of people, writing us off. We played a Broncos side in that first final that had like Tallis and Lockyer and Saylor and Webke and Thorne, and it was like, we didn't even go into that game as favourites after being minor premierships. And after winning that, we went straight through and met your boys again. Expectation was, well, can they continue on this run? And then, we met the Roosters, who won the comp the year before in the grand final. And again, all the pressure seemed to be on them because no one really expected us to be where we were. So, there was a couple of the older guys that knew how rare this opportunity was because, I'd played 14 years at the club before we had any sort of success. So I kind of knew that this was, an opportunity that needed to be taken. But the young guys probably just thought, well, this is what happens every year and how good's playing, NRL, and they had the dream run. So I think it was a combination of all of it that allowed us to contain all those emotions and not get overwhelmed. And then I guess it was, all the outside noise about, the Roosters and the Warriors and these other teams that were going to beat us and end up not being able to. And that was kind of like the story of our run that year.
Well, let's bring it to the present day. This is already, by any measure, a great Penrith side. What would a fourth straight title do to further solidify one of the great NRL dynasties?
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes you've just got these clubs that have these brilliant individual players that play a lot of Origin and rep football and are just dominant, like as I spoke about that Broncos side in the late 90s, early 2000s, with those names that I just mentioned, individual-wise, and you'd have to say that, those guys are probably a better side of individuals, and then you have just this group at the moment that are just a great team, they're just a fantastic team that work really hard and have found that you don't need to be a whole, team full of individual stars to have success, sustained success. They've got the secret. They obviously, each year for me, the surprise is the fact that they've already got 2 or 3 rings and they find a way to have more desire than everyone else that's chasing them. And they're the hunted every year and they seem to kind of like it. They seem to, continually outwork other teams and the model that they've used to have all that success, which is really hard to maintain, which is the standards in which they keep at training and in their preparation. They've just got those sort of characteristics individually that, just put them in that position every year, and they just find a way continually, even after, losing like the quality of players. And everyone mentions the Kickows and the Coruscaws and the Crichtons, but, they're losing guys at pathways as well. You got guys that haven't even played a lot of first grade, like the lock forward that went over to Parramatta this year and ended up playing Origin, He came out of the system, So, and then there's the Cape Wells and the other guys that people forget about that. You see what sort of impact he had when he left the Broncos as well. So, it's just an incredible story. Where it goes down in history, given that cap in place, you'd have to credit the whole organisation for recruitment and retention and the whole other side of the business that a lot of people don't really think about, but the whole club has just done a wonderful job and given that community so much joy over the last 5 or 6 years. I've just loved watching it.
The Clearys, Coach Ivan, playmaker Nathan, such an important player, such an important coach. Are you able to articulate, Ryan, how integral the Clearys are to this club?
Well, I think what people really respect, they know that they're not Penrith juniors, although, Nathan spent a fair bit of time out there because Ivan's been out there and Ivan spent a lot of time over your way as well, and Nathan was over there. So I feel like, what the people really respect is how they've embraced the community and how even though they mightn't live there or, they mightn't have, spent a lot of time out there in the past, while they're out there, they've really embraced their connection with the community and with the people out there. And I think that's been really why the fans have responded. And then obviously, on the back of their success. It's easy, as you know, to be a supporter when, things are going well. It's easy to, spend your hard-earned when you're going down there on a Sunday or a Saturday night and you know that the team's going to, make you and your family feel good and there's going to be plenty to celebrate. So, I just think, and people respect, it's a hard-working community. People respect hard work and they see the hard work that those guys put in to be able to maintain the levels that they do and for long periods of time. So they just fit in so many different ways. They seem very humble. The way that they communicate through the media to their fans is always, I believe, done in a manner in which the fans respect it. And even though they can have a little bit of swagger and they can be a little bit cocky on the field, they've been in the last 5 grand finals. So they're walking the walk, they're talking the talk, and the people out there just love them.
Let's talk about the Melbourne Storm then. How do you rate their chances of stopping this Panthers machine tonight?
Yeah, I think they're a really good chance. I thought the Broncos were a really good chance last year, and they did go really close. And I think the Melbourne Storm go in probably better form. Their finals form's probably been a little bit better than Penrith. They've got, their key personnel in those key positions are all in great form. They've got a really, the way that they play really threaten Penrith defensively, with running halves and a fullback that, has so much variation and speed to his game as well, and probably the most creative dummy half in the league. So they're certainly going to be a handful for Penrith. And this kind of to me, looks more like an Origin than it does like an NRL game when you've got, all these key players and all these representative players from both teams that have had so much success at all different levels. They go out, and usually it's won in a couple of moments, because they both have the same sort of attributes. They play at high intensity for long periods of time, which is, I think, what sort of stood them above from everyone else in the competition this year. Teams just couldn't go with them. They would just literally get them in the cycle and just just burn them out and just be relentless. And other sides just couldn't go with them for long periods. And these two sides are the best at that. So if they both go out there with that mentality, which I'd imagine they will, it's going to come down to hopefully not referee decisions, but big moments owned by, guys like Cleary and Munster and Grant and Edwards and Yeo. So it's a toss of a coin, to be fair. I really have no idea who's going to get the job done, but I think it's going to be one hell of a contest.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. Just to finish, Ryan, it always felt like we were heading for a Storm Panthers grand final, even from a long way out during the regular season. These two felt like they were the best two teams by some distance. Has that taken away any of the jeopardy, any of the excitement, the interest in the regular season and the final series?
Oh, look, I think the NRL, if you look at the numbers, the bums on seats, and also through their broadcasters, the game's just gone to another level, I think, with how the administration of the promotion game for the last couple of years has been exceptional. And it's more popular than ever over here. Obviously, no one really mentions the Wallabies anymore because of where they're at in their cycle of development. So, and the AFL sort of finished last week. So, I think the NRL is more popular than ever with different social media platforms and so many different broadcasts. There's so much information, coming out about the game and the players. There's lots of characters in the game at the moment, and I think there's a lot of interest. As you said, this has been the game that I think everyone's been waiting to see, especially since probably, later rounds of the competition. I think everyone forecasted this grand final at the beginning, when the final started, and I think it would have been disappointing to see, anyone else get there. So there's even though Penrith have sort of had that run, and I think people appreciate, when they're alive to, witness greatness, and that's what they're seeing. And it might be another 50 years before we see another team go through like a cycle like this. So I think everyone's just enjoying it. It's hard not to respect and honour what they've done as a footy club, and obviously everyone likes some of those Melbourne guys. There's a lot of characters in their side, and they're well respected for what they do on a weekly basis. So, I think there's a hell of a lot of interest in this game on the weekend, and I don't think too many people will be too worried about which way the result goes either. As long as it's a good contest and the players decide who gets the cup, I think everyone will be happy.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Ryan. Hey, great to get your expertise and your memories as well. Thanks, mate. Ryan Girdler, premiership winner with Penrith in 2003, over 200 games for the Panthers. Panthers Storm tonight. I don't think there's any way of separating these two. You can make arguments for both sides. You can look at the odds that have the Storm slightly favoured, but really it's just a clash of two absolute powerhouses of modern-day rugby league going at it tonight from 9:30. Let's just hope that the contest lives up to all of the hype tonight. It is 24 away from 3. Let's get you back to Trafalgar Park, courtesy of Gold Sport.
They're only 7-8 metres from their own try line, Tasman. They may want to find touch shortly to get out of their red zone because there's danger afoot with Taranaki attacking hard at the moment. Finlay Christie. They go away to the right. Has that been knocked on? It's loose ball and it's a try. Michael Loft.
Yeah, that's Taranaki scoring their second try of the contest. It was converted by Josh Jacob, who has also kicked a penalty. So with, what have we got, about 34 minutes gone now, as Tasman just about scored their first try, but held up over the line. Taranaki 20 points to 3 ahead of Tasman. 31 minutes gone. 31 minutes gone at Trafalgar Park, but certainly not the scoreline that, well, certainly Tasman fans weren't after, and I don't think many expected. But Taranaki, the Amber and Blacks, 20 points to 3 ahead of the Tasman Muckle. Not only the Ranfurly Shield on the line, but also Tasman could relinquish top spot in the playoffs if they don't win this one. Wellington would finish top and take hosting rights through. There's a long way to go. 31 and a half minutes gone. Taranaki 20, Tasman 3. We will keep you updated. 22 and a half away from 3. We'll take a break, come back, change the shape of the ball to football. Ben Waine, part of the all-white squad for upcoming World Cup qualifiers, about to hop on a plane in the UK and head back this way. He'll have a chat to us right after this.
You be the TMO. Have your say on 0800 80 1080 Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes. New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
19 away from 3, 35 minutes gone in Nelson. Taranaki still lead 20 points to 3. To make matters worse for Tasman, Timothy Tawera, who's been one of their standouts during this NPC campaign, is not playing. And in fact, I was just sent a photo which shows Timothy Tawera sitting, watching the game with his leg in a brace. So I'm not sure what that does for his chances of a call-up perhaps to the All Blacks 15. I think he's well and truly in the frame for that, if not the All Blacks. Tawera, after the NPC campaign he's had. We'll wait for more clarity around that. The All Whites begin their World Cup qualifying campaign this week to try and make it to the 2026 Football World Cup. They play Tahiti this coming Friday. That game is in Vanuatu. And then on Monday, they play a friendly against Malaysia at North Harbour Stadium, Albany. In November, it's Vanuatu in Hamilton and Samoa in Auckland. Now, New Zealand Football have made the tickets really cheap for these games, so they should be, hopefully, accessible to just about everybody. Adults, $20, kids just $5, plus ticketing fees for the games here in New Zealand. Malaysia a week tomorrow at Albany, then Vanuatu in Hamilton and Samoa in Auckland in November. All-white striker Ben Waine, of course, is a big part of this side.
Riley getting back, gets ahead to it. Mackenzie has to get a shot, and it's gone over the top of the keeper and in, and New Zealand have levelled. A fortuitous goal. Ben Waine, the substitute, takes advantage. And it's 1-1 with 2 minutes left to play.
Yeah, that was the last time the All Whites played, a 1-1 draw against the United States. I want to ask you about that goal in a minute, Ben, actually. But thanks for joining us. So you're currently on loan at Mansfield Town from your parent club, Plymouth Argyle. So how's it going at Mansfield Town?
Yeah, it's really good. The last couple of weeks have been really easy, to be fair, getting into a new team, and everyone's been friendly, and to get off the mark the other day, and then we had another 2-0 win this afternoon. We're flying at the moment. It's awesome.
Yeah, so you score your first goal against Crawley midweek. Does that take the weight off your shoulders at all at a new club, getting off the mark with your first goal?
Yeah, big time. I've been working hard with the time I've had, and to be able to come on and score the other day was really special, and like you said, massive weight off the shoulders.
Your manager at Mansfield is Nigel Clough, who was a fairly handy striker in his day. How helpful has he been to you as a fellow striker?
Yeah, hugely. I'd say he's definitely a bit more old school with his coaching, but to be honest, it's really refreshing. Some of the tips and stuff he's been giving me, the information has been just really straightforward, and it's stuff that I haven't really thought about as well before. So no, it's been really, really good.
So you're on loan at Mansfield. What's the situation around Plymouth Argyle, your parent club? How much contact do you retain with them, and what's the nature of that contact?
Yeah, no, very good contact, to be fair. One of the physios will always stay in touch with me just to make sure everything's okay. And there's one of the coaches called Nance, who's Plymouth Argyle through and through, and he keeps in touch with me as well. So no, the relationship's still really strong. Everyone agreed me going on loan was the best thing for me, and then hopefully it can potentially benefit Plymouth in the future. So yeah. So
you've been playing in the UK for a while now, been there a couple of years. Is playing in the United Kingdom, playing for Plymouth Argyle and Mansfield Town, is it what you expected it would be?
Yeah, and a lot more as well. I knew it was going to be absolute carnage coming over here. The amount of games and the level as well. It's different. The intensity's extremely high, and sometimes it can be a bit like pinball as well. So getting used to that, I'm not going to lie. It took me probably over a season and a bit to even get used to that, and then we jumped leagues. So it's been, my whole time's been spent adapting. So now I feel like I'm at a place where I've learned some vital lessons in terms of how to adapt and what are the best things to do in these situations. So I think it's going to pay off.
Good to hear. Back in with the national team now, though, for the next 7 to 10 days. I know you're looking forward to that. What's it like when you all get back together? You're all spread far and wide now. What is it like when you come together in the national team?
Oh, it's amazing. It's really, really good as well, because, you know, you've got boys from the Phoenix that we've all gone our separate ways now, you know, but I've played with those lads for a decent amount of time, and to be able to see what they're doing and then come back together and play together again is special. And I'm driving out tonight to go stay at the airport hotel, so I'm looking forward to catching up with everyone.
And when you do get together, I'd imagine it's similar to any bunch of guys getting together who haven't seen each other for a while but spend time together in a situation like this. Do you just sort of slip back into the old banter, the old ways?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's down to Sam's son as well. He's straight on it as soon as we're back together. So yeah, it's really good that it's like that. You know, it's like we haven't been apart, so it's really good.
So the last time was quite recently, actually, a window which involved games against Mexico and the United States. The draw against the US, your goal late on. Talk us through it.
Just a classy goal, really. No, it was one of those ones that you're probably never ever going to score again, but just a result of putting players under pressure and a little bit of hard work. And, you know, sometimes you get those rewards. And the funny thing is, as soon as the defender kicked it into my chest, I just knew. I think you can see in the video, I've run off with my hand up. As soon as it's hit my chest, I've gone, that's going in. And you score some of those throughout a career and you take them 100%. But I like to think it's also a result of just grafting out results.
Absolutely, but also, all joking aside, do you take pride in having to be there? Because, you know, 99 times out of 100 you make that run and put pressure on the defender and nothing happens, right? They clear it. But the 100th time it does. So do you take pride in being in the right place and putting pressure on the opposition defenders?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, to be fair, it's something that Chris Greenacre used to always tell me. It's not necessarily in that situation. He did not coach me in that situation, but more so just receiving the ball off a cross or whatever. 9 times out of 10, the ball's not going to come to you, but the time you don't make the movement or you do that action, you guarantee the ball's going to be there. So it's just a matter of repetition and numbers and constantly doing it. And yeah, law of averages, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Indeed. When you're inside the All Whites camp, Ben, how much help and assistance and guidance and advice do you get from Chris Wood?
Yeah, I get a decent amount, to be fair. He's just a really open person in terms of, you know, you can feel comfortable to go and ask him about certain situations, which I do. I don't pester him all the time, don't get me wrong. But if something comes to mind or he sees something, then he will say it. But yeah, I like to have that relationship with him where I know I can ask him for advice when I need it. And he keeps in contact as well, which is really nice.
So the path to the next World Cup is, on the face of things anyway, a lot more straightforward for New Zealand. Direct entry for Oceania, or the winner of the Oceania competition, into the next World Cup in 2026. So as I say, that seems a lot more straightforward. And, I guess most people would expect you to account for the other Oceania nations fairly comfortably. How do you avoid complacency, though? Not just expecting to turn up and win these games.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think the best way to look at it is what we did at the Nations Cup. You could have said as well, there wasn't, other than a trophy, there was no qualifying or anything off the back of that. But I think the way we handled ourselves in terms of every game, we try to keep our standards as high as we could, never let up, and just continued to go and go and go, and just made sure that we held ourselves accountable. I think that was the biggest thing, and you saw what happened. So, look, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy and we're going to go and we're going to win, but obviously you'd like to think so. But the biggest thing is we've done it before and we know what we have to do. I think that's probably the biggest point.
And of course, we should mention the Olympic Games as well. You played for New Zealand at the recent Olympics in Paris, scored the winner against Guinea. That was a goal that was much more your own work. How do you reflect back on the Olympic campaign with New Zealand?
Yeah, it was awesome and a great start. I mean, obviously the score is always amazing. That was something I really wanted to tick off, a goal at the Olympics. But obviously a bit of a shame in terms of we couldn't get out of the group. Look, we came up against some really, really good opposition, but at the end of the day, it wasn't meant to be. But it was just nice to also have that responsibility to be that striker that's leading the line as well. I think I really enjoyed having that kind of role in the team. Fantastic.
Well, it's an exciting time ahead for fans of New Zealand football and for the players, I'm sure, as well, with the World Cup qualification path to begin this coming Friday. Ben, travel safe to this side of the world. Look forward to seeing you over here. Thanks for taking the time for a chat.
Awesome. Thanks, Piney.
Thanks, Ben. Ben Wayne there from the All Whites game on Friday against Tahiti in Vanuatu, and then the friendly against Malaysia in Auckland on Monday, and then games in November in Hamilton and Auckland against Vanuatu and Samoa, respectively. Ticket prices, pretty cheap. $20 for adults, $5 for kids, plus ticketing fees, so pretty accessible, really. 9-3, back to Trafalgar Park on Gold Sport.
Molly throws in, Sale down near the back of the line out, takes it. Rolling Moore, it's been smuggled back to Molly. A couple of tries this season. Now Christie's got it. Rolling Moore going nowhere. Right running ball. David Havili to William Havili. Puts the cross kick in. It's taken by the right winger Gray. Who's going to score? In the right wing corner. Jack Gray, try number 6. Fins up, mate.
Yeah, so finally Tasman are into the game, with a try anyway, their first try of the contest. That was after 37 minutes. Josh Jacob, though, did kick a penalty just before half-time. So at the break, it's Taranaki 23, Tasman 8. So a bit of work to do for the Tasman Mako in the second half if they are to hold on to the Ranfurly Shield and finish top in the regular season of the Bunnings NPC. 8 away from 3, News Talk ZB.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.